Hello and welcome to this morning or mid-morning taste challenge. I have two 40% alcohol rums. This is Ron Pontalba. People have told me it's very popular in Texas. I don't know. I haven't studied that situation. It's available in Louisiana. I don't know about popular, but it's here. I bought this liter bottle for $6.99 at Ricky's Liquors on Louisiana Highway 49, southbound in Kenner, Louisiana. This product was introduced in 1989, and it looks like the label is from 1989. Looks like a Ocean Pacific t-shirt label. Imported from the Caribbean islands, bottled by Wide World Importers of Frankfort, Kentucky, more commonly known as Buffalo Trace. And it says right there, Sazerac.com. There's the phone number and the email. Okay, so there was an earlier Sazerac product, probably up until 1989, called Pontalba Rum. Pontalba Rum. There was another old product called Old Superior Rum, but those are both gone. So they just took, I'm assuming, Pontalba Rum and put it in the Spanish form, Ron Pontalba, which makes sense because Pontalba, it's a white rum, of course. This rum was named after an actual human being, an actual woman named Michaela Almonaster de Pontalba. Don't you like this cream-colored label design? Looks pretty nice, huh? Cream-colored. So Michaela Almonaster de Pontalba was born in Louisiana during the time of Spanish control of Louisiana. Burley Sullivan says, "You." Hey, Burley, cheers back to you. And she was the daughter of a Spanish grandee, which is like a minor noble. Like, for instance, in England, they have barons and baroness. That would be like in Spain, they have grandee. Hold on. Sorry about that. So she was born in Spanish Louisiana because Spain did rule Louisiana from 1760, about 1760, but technically not till like 62, but because there was some problems when they took over, but until 1803. Okay, so about 40 years. Louisiana was a Spanish province, and they're the ones that actually built the French Quarter. So the French Quarter would more accurately be called the Spanish Quarter. So she grew up here. Her family was from Spain. She married a man who was a French minor noble, Baron de Pontalba. And so then their family name was Almonaster de Pontalba. And so she got involved in, of all things, real estate in the 1800s. Yes, that's how long women have been involved in real estate. So she helped build the Pontalba apartments, which are north and south, upriver and downriver, in Jackson Square, which I was visiting Saturday, or back then it was called the Plaza de Armas. So, which are owned by the state of Louisiana. So those are probably the most expensive housing projects, the most expensive housing project in the United States. Public housing, the most expensive public housing in the United States. And you can rent a room, you can rent an apartment there, but you wouldn't want to see the price. But anyway, and if you go to the French Quarter, there's grill work, cast iron grill work all along the balcony, and it's AP. It says AP all along. AP. Almonaster Pontalba. Get it? Almonaster Pontalba. Her children moved to France after she passed away. So apparently none of the families in Louisiana now. But she was famous, like, 150 years ago. And there is even a street in New Orleans named after her, Almonaster Boulevard. Almonaster Boulevard. So, like I said in previous videos, the history of the product is usually more interesting than the actual product. Now, Gran Legacy, pointing at the wrong product. Gran Legacy was introduced only in 2006. And it was produced by Legacy Distilling Company, also known as Buffalo Trace, the Sazerac Company, for CVS Pharmacy. But for some reason, maybe the sales weren't what they wanted. I know CVS had a lot of problems, financial problems. Not as bad as Rite Aid, which is going out of business. But around 2 years ago, they started shedding it, getting rid of it, and all the stores stopped selling it. And about a year ago, year and a half, maybe 2 years, it's probably 2 years ago, 2023 Mardi Gras. Yeah, Mardi Gras. Because I didn't go to Mardi Gras this year downtown because I was at baseball games. But I saw 1 or 2 bottles of Gran Legacy vodka at CVS, and everything else was gone. And I'm like, oh, they're getting out of this deal. And they did. They abandoned the trade. They literally abandoned the trademark. It was picked up. The trademark was acquired by, I guess they paid the fees and everything, acquired by Casey's General Stores of the middle United States. We want to call it the Midwest. I've been to that convenience store, like in Missouri and Arkansas. Apparently they're coming to Louisiana, but they picked it up because in some states, Casey's does sell liquor, like Missouri, Kentucky, and other states. Now some states won't allow it, can't sell liquor in a convenience store. But yeah, so that's who owns it. So it's still being produced just for a different company, but it is by the Sazerac. Now, this Sazerac company, this one is imported from the Caribbean islands. Ron Pontalba. Which islands? Well, that probably varies year to year. So that's why they just give a general description. The Caribbean islands, whoever is going to be willing to swing a deal with them, whatever distillery, because Sazerac doesn't own any distilleries in the Caribbean. Gran Legacy is produced in the United States. It says Silver Caribbean Style Rum. All right. Silver Caribbean Style Rum, not Caribbean rum. And it's bottled in Kentucky and almost very likely or assuredly produced in Kentucky at the Glenmore Distillery, which does a whole lot of rum distilling, believe it or not. And you say in Kentucky? Yeah, Kentucky. Joe Cobb says, hello, Ron. Hope you're well. Hello, Joe Cobb. I was just watching King Charles's appearance in Canada at Parliament, but I had to turn it off because I'm doing this. But they were going on and on about it on Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, CBC, and it's pretty interesting. News Nation was also, but it kept getting delayed, so News Nation went on to other stories. They were getting impatient about that, but I'm sure they'll at least show highlights of the speech. It's only the third time that a British monarch has opened the Parliament of Canada, like in the 50s, in the 1970s, once in the 50s, once in the 70s, and then now, today. Ryan Carpenter says, cheers. Cheers to you. Clinking the mugs. Yes, I would show y'all a website listing, but in fact, there is no website listing for either one of these products. I know where to find Ron Pontalba very easily. Ricky's, Discount Liquor, Star, International Market. I believe all three stores sell it. Silver, gold, 151 proof. No thanks. I'm not buying that. The spiced, well, I would conceivably buy that, but the 151 proof, nah, I don't think I want to drink anything. 125 proof, I thought was outrageously strong. So I know 151 would be definitely not in my area of interest. Okay, but other people like it. Am I going to be able to tell these apart? It's questionable because, like I said earlier, in a few videos, Sazerac, Buffalo Trace, same company, they tend to have a house style, whether it's gin, vodka, rum, bourbon, definitely bourbon. So their products tend to overlap in flavor, which is good in a way, I suppose, because if you could figure out if it's a Sazerac product by looking at the alias names, then you be pretty certain you're going to get a quality product. I didn't say world class, I say quality. These are both low end. They're not world class. Only a fool would believe that. But they're quality. You know, they're at a certain, you know, Sazerac will only go so low and then they stop and they don't go any. Now, years past, some of their stuff was, as they say in England, dodgy, you know, questionable, like the old Hartley brandy. That thing was, oh man. But I know they definitely improved it. It's a lot better today. Joe Cobb says, yeah, I saw that. Apparently our Governor General said, oh, Mary Simon. I know who that is. These ongoing conversations deepen the meaningful bond between our nations, and she is catching some flack because she did not know or acknowledge Charles is our head of state. Oh, yeah, obviously it's sensational stuff because she was appointed by his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, so obviously she knows who's the head of state. It's two separate countries. They're not really nations. A nation is like the English people. That's a nation, a tribe of people. The Scottish people, a nation. The Welsh, the Irish, those are nations. Canada is not a nation because it's made up of many different nations. The original people, the Indian nations, right? And then you have the immigrants, the Irish, the Scottish, the English, the Welsh, the Germans, the Ukrainians, the Belarusians, the African people. So a country is an independent unit, right? Like Rwanda or Madagascar or Thailand. A nation is a people group. And then you got some countries that are made up of nations, like France, a nation state, the French people in their own country. What would you say? Israel, the Jewish people, or some of the Jewish people in their own nation state. Germany, the German people in their own nation state. But then other countries are not nation states. They're just a collection of people from around the world. Canada, United States, so forth. Don't forget the French. They don't like it when you forget them, laughing out loud. Yeah, nation is more like ethnicity, but people don't realize that today. People are very confused. People think of nation and country as the same thing, but it's really not that, because there's no country for old men. No, but you know what I mean. No, I mean, it's different. Because in the United States, they always say, our nation is like, I'm thinking all the time, it's not a nation. But, you know, you can't tell them, you know, they don't listen or understand. When I went to Oklahoma 2 years ago, I went through the Cherokee Nation. The Cherokee Nation. It said, you are now entering the Cherokee Nation. They have their own license plates. They have their own schools. They have their own community centers. They actually have their own hospital, but they don't have a country. They're not an independent country. There's no Cherokee army. There's no Cherokee money. There's no Cherokee Nation king or president or Congress. They might have a council that makes decisions for their nation, but you see, that's a nation, a Cherokee Nation. They were assigned certain territory within the United States, but they're not a free country. They're not a country at all. Yeah, it's just like something that's kind of a whitewash nowadays. People just say they are their nationality when you ask them most of the time. Right, I'm French, I'm German, I'm Irish, but they may not even really know that much about it. Okay, so aroma, rather neutral. Aroma, yeah, pretty neutral. But it was interesting to go to the Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma because I could see a lot of Indian people driving around. I did feel like an outsider, but I wasn't like concerned about it, but it was interesting. That's all I can say. Interesting. All right. So the appearance is the same for both of these, clear. The aroma is the same for both of these, virtually neutral. Now let's go with the flavor. This one says Caribbean rum. That's all it says, from the Caribbean islands. This one says silver Caribbean style rum with natural flavors. This one may have flavoring too, because with rum, they are allowed to add flavoring and they do not have to say it. On the other hand, I find that Sazerac is pretty upfront about it. When they add flavoring, they'll just tell you they added flavoring. So if they don't say they add flavoring, I think that means they don't add it. But it still may not make much difference. All right. Very dry. Very dry. You get sugarcane distillate. Think of like ethanol, just like alcohol I think ethanol is technically grain alcohol. This is not grain, but it's something out. It's some kind of alcohol that you can consume, right? You see, but it's just a very dry and very regular. If you want to call it neutral, I won't take issue with that. Is it bad? It's not bad. It's just neutral. It's a mixer. It's just neutral. It's sort of like if you made vodka out of sugarcane, which you can actually make vodka out of sugarcane. The difference between the two is that the rum might be aged for a month or two in oak, maybe like a week with this one. But with vodka, it can never touch wood. Vodka can never touch wood. As soon as vodka touches wood, it's no longer vodka. It's if it's made from grain, then it would suddenly become whiskey or something else. So yeah, it has to be stored in stainless steel vessels. Got to be totally uncorrupted, if you want to call it that. And it must be filtered through charcoal. Not can be, if you read the regulations, must be. Not my rules. Okay. You say that's why vodka's so clean, clean, clean. Correct. And the number one selling liquor in the world, by the way. And you say the most neutral product is the number one selling. Yes, because people mix it with everything, orange juice and so forth, even Hawaiian punch. Canada dry ginger ale. I mean, it's endless. Some guy told me his grandmother drinks whiskey with milk, or more like milk with whiskey added. I said, milk with whiskey? Okay. He said, yeah, she likes it. So I'm sure she does. Hopefully he doesn't like it too much, but when these things are pretty neutral, that's the good thing about it. You can mix them with more or less anything. Doesn't mess it up. Ran out of mixers and drank some vodka with blueberry yogurt once, says Daniel M. It wasn't terrible. Well, thinking about craft beer these days, that'd probably be normal. I had beer with cream cheese in it, so what the heck? Joe Cobb says scotch and milk is a thing. I mean, think of what Irish cream liqueur is. It's like a milk product, right? Cream from milk mixed with whiskey. It's sort of like the same thing, but they're adding loads of sugar, obviously. to make it more palatable. Uh, Price point $6.99 for a liter. $10.99 I paid for this handle. Not a big difference, is it? No. Yeah. You'll save a little bit of money if you get the Gran Legacy, a handle for $10.99, but you're not going to save a lot. So, which one should you buy? Well, honestly, you should buy whichever one catches your eye. Is one better than the other? Um, I guess you could make that argument. I don't know if I would. I know. No, I wouldn't. I mean, I get a little oak here. There's a little oak in my left hand, which is telling me Ron Pontalba. A little bit of oak. Here, there's like a little bit of vanilla, and I mean a little tiny speck. I mean, honestly, I would just do what I did: buy both, try them. I mean, you're not paying. I didn't pay $20 for both. $17.98 for both bottles together, plus tax, of course. What the heck? Are they bad? No, they're not. I'm very strong on this. They're definitely not bad. Are they low end? Yes. I think we already established that. If you want to call it bottom shelf, whatever, your terminology, no problem. Are they bad? Definitely not. Are they average? Just like so-so, a C. Yeah, you could sort of make that argument, or you could definitely make the argument if you made a good argument. I wouldn't go that low, though, honestly. I think they're better than just a C because the amazing world of Buffalo Trace slash Sazerac. I really do believe that, and I don't get any money from them. Man, look, if I got money from Sazerac or if they sent me free stuff, I'd be doing a Sazerac video every day. This channel would be no longer be Louisiana beer reviews, but it would be Louisiana Buffalo Trace reviews. So, but I never got nothing from them, not even a thank you. But that's all right. But but I have to say it. I'm going to say it live on the air. I think their quality level is really strong. Even their low end stuff. I mean, low end, low, like Miles is gin. Funny thing about Miles, that stuff is so low. How low is it? I mean, it's really low. But God, by golly, a lot of people buy it. I'm telling you, people buy that stuff left and right, sideways, diagonal, front and back. And they've been selling that to hobos for 50, not hobos, I mean to say value conscious consumers. But but when you drink it, like I tried some of that. I bought a small bottle of the Miles glass. And I'm thinking, it's kind of all right, so it's funny that the label says gin with natural flavors because that's basically what gin is. Gin is grain spirits with natural flavors, a la juniper berries. Significantly, it has to have juniper berries. That's the main ingredient. They take grain neutral spirits. You say, you mean vodka? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But they could age it in wood. The wood is not a problem with gin. They put it in a vessel, whatever it is. I don't know. I don't care. But they let it rest with juniper berries. Do they stir it up? I don't know. But they'll add other things to it, like other herbs and spices. Orange peel, lemon peel, lime peel. Uh, which in my mind are all flavorings, right? It adds flavor, so then therefore it's a flavoring, right? So it's kind of funny to me to see gin with natural flavoring when gin is something with natural flavoring. It's like here's a red truck with red on it. But yeah, because it's red. Um, like my Nissan car comes in white, charcoal gray, and silver. But you can get red. I've seen red. I've seen blue, metallic red and blue, metallic red, metallic blue. Got the metallic chips in it. But those are really hard to find. And but I said, golly, they don't make any yellow or gold or orange or brown. God forbid. I was thinking about this yesterday after work. I said, how many cars, or was it before work? Doesn't matter. I said, how many automobiles today are brown or yellow or gold or orange or green, right? I can remember years ago, any car you wanted to buy, I don't care what, a Buick, Regal, didn't matter, Ford Mustang, like it didn't matter. You could buy it in any color. It was so bizarre, like you could say, I want to get a 1987 Mustang LX 5.0, like high output engine, like a race car, basically. Where you can show off at the stoplight. I saw somebody doing that 2 days ago with their Mustang GT. Rah! Flying past everybody with the resonators on the exhaust. I'm like, okay, you got power. But it's funny, because in 1987, let's say, nearly 50 years ago, well, I'm sorry, nearly 40 years ago, you could go to the Ford dealership and get a 1987 Mustang LX 5.0. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's going to go on the streets and go up against a Chevrolet Camaro IROC Z and those kind of things. The Firebird, Trans Am, and all that. So, but but you could buy it in brown, metallic brown with brown vinyl seats. You didn't get a credit. I was looking at the technical stats. You could get cloth seats, brown, or vinyl, no leather. I don't think. Maybe. I don't think so. But vinyl and brown. But it was no credit. Like you didn't get a discount. You could say, I want vinyl. And the dealership would say, what? I want vinyl seats. Okay. It'll be ready in 6 weeks. But imagine cruising the streets on a Friday night and you got your Ford Mustang LX or GT even. That would be even more incredible. With your metallic brown with brown, chocolate brown vinyl seats. Tacking up at the stoplight. That is so funny. So, but in reality, the truth. They even made brown Camaros. Well, I say made. Let's say they were available up until the late 80s. I don't think they were actually made. I don't know if anybody ever ordered them, but they were on the books. You could go to a Chevrolet dealership and say, I want to get a brown Camaro or a Pontiac. I want to get a brown Pontiac. They'd be like, what? But back in those days, they would have mustard yellow. Now, think about today. Everything is white, black, red. Even the red is dull. Silver, charcoal gray, white. Just go driving around. Go drive around your neighborhood right now. Most every car you see is going to be white, black, or charcoal gray. Herbie says hi. Joe Cobb says, were you ever into fast cars? Well, I was into the theory of it, but I wasn't into buying it. I just bought regular cars that would get good gas mileage. I had many Mustangs and a Camaro, I might add, but I always got the gas mileage Camaros. I bought the ones that were aesthetically pleasing because I don't care about racing and I don't care about, tack it up, brother, going to shut you down at the stoplight. I don't care about that. If you beat me, I don't care. As long as I can make the left turn with the traffic coming, I'm fine. But I had that 81 Mustang with the appliques on it, the horses running, and the stripes. Beautiful car. Gray interior, vinyl, of course. But that thing got gas mileage. Oh, if that had a bad day, it would get 32 miles to the gallon. On a bad day, 32 miles to the gallon all the time, every day. I don't know what that is in kilometers. Cruise control, dealership add-on. But couldn't complain, Had the 89 Mustang LX. I thought it was a little inferior, like it had some problems. Like the AC unit went out kind of fast. Like the 81, it was cold. It'll freeze you out. You had to kind of turn it off after a while. It would just freeze you, deep freeze, which is a good sign because it's old. I had the 81 Camaro. I had a 1981 Camaro Berlinetta. That was my favorite car of all time because I couldn't believe I found this car. $2,500, 1990, $2,500. Camaro Berlinetta. They even had the window sticker still in it, what they paid for it, which was very expensive. But with the tilt steering. But back in 1981, that was like considered very ritzy, like you showing off. I got a Camaro Berlinetta with the V6, the odd firing 229 odd firing V6, 135. But it was just a different V6 lineup. I think it was a Buick engine. No, wait. There were two options, and okay, I'm confused now. There was a 229 and there was a 231. Oh, I can't believe it. I think the 231 was the Buick. Cubic inches. Now I'm confused. But I had the 229. But it was a Berlinetta. And I used to get gasoline. You have to put gas in your vehicle. And I would go get gasoline. And every time I would go to get gas in that car, people would stop me and say, hey, you want to sell that car? Like every time I went to get gas for 5 straight years, people would stop me and say, do I want to sell that Camaro Berlinetta? And they were serious because that car was a car repair shop around here said, man, that car is cherry. He called it cherry, like primo. And the interior was it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. But I had a 89 Mustang LX. It was not that great. I think they had problems that year. I don't know, with that car at least. Had the 1993 Camaro, 1993 Mustang LX, 2.3 liter, but it had 2 spark plugs per cylinder, inline 4-cylinder. So it had increased horsepower just because of that, the way they had designed it. Oh, that car was so good. That car was so good that tomorrow you're going to be working in Alaska, dress warm. I mean, that car was, I could never get less than 32 miles to the gallon. Never less than 32 mpg. And then I had the 2001 Mustang V6. Now I went to the V6 and it had 195 horsepower. And that car could get you in trouble. That was a problem. I was glad to get rid of it because you could be going 85, you feel like you're going 30. That was a speeding ticket waiting to happen. I never got a ticket in that car, believe it or not. It was a 5-speed manual, back when you get manual. It's so much better to buy with these cars, like a Mustang, to have the manual transmission. But I drove to Chicago, Illinois, and you go 85, you'd be going 85, and you feel like you're not fast. Like you say, I'm not going fast. Going 85. So an amazing vehicle. All right, anyway, they still make them. And I'm sure the 2025 is much more amazing, much more amazing. Okay, so Herbie says, GMC, General Motors Corporation, Denali, my dream car. Oh, a Denali. Well, they certainly have their following. Hello again, says liquor enthusiast. The cars laughing out loud. Rest in peace, Rick Ocasek. I just mentioned this right now. I have every Cars studio album. I own every Cars studio album, 1978 to 84. The Cars, Candio, Panorama LP, Candio LP, Shake It Up LP, and Heartbeat City LP. But when I listened to Heartbeat City, I said, this band is finished. I remember listening to that in 1984, 41 years ago. And I told my friend Thomas, rest in peace, God bless you, but he died. But I said, this band is finished. I said, I waited all these years for this. And he was like, I don't understand it, and we were so upset. I said, that's it. It's over for the Cars. And it was. I think they made one more studio album, but it didn't sell. I have a 6-speed, 8-cylinder Volkswagen, one of the few young people that can drive a stick. It's fun, says Joe. Oh, yeah, when I went to buy my Nissan 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago, I was going to buy a stick shift. I said, I want to buy a stick shift Nissan. We don't have any. When I went to buy my Dodge Avenger, which had definitely good horsepower, no manual transmission. I couldn't get over it. So I had a Dodge Avenger with the 5-speed automatic. It was nice. I have now the Nissan with the CVT, the continual various transmission, where it like computerized adjustment to the transmission. I like it, but I would much rather have the 5-speed. And there's a man I know around here. He had the special order, the 5-speed manual. I said, because I had a Isuzu I-290 truck, 2007 Isuzu I-290 truck, 5-speed. You could never pop the clutch on that and stall it out. That was the smoothest shifting thing. And I had that Ford Ranger, 1999 5-speed. I had the 2001 Mustang 5-speed, the Corolla CE 5-speed. I had the 1989 Mustang LX 5-speed, the 1981 Mustang 4-speed. Beautiful car, one of my favorite cars that I ever had. I had the I shouldn't. A Volkswagen, I shouldn't mention it. Volkswagen Beetle, 1974 Volkswagen Beetle, not the Super Beetle, but I had a Volkswagen Beetle 4-speed. That car would break down. You would have to work on that car all the time. It didn't break down, but you would have to work on it. They don't make Volkswagen Beetles for a reason. But yeah, I mean, I would like to buy more manual transmissions. Yeah. Couldn't get a Dodge. I couldn't get a Ram pickup 5-speed. They said no. They told me no, we don't make them anymore. So it was irritating. Great group, Ron. Like Bad Coat, in my opinion. Yeah, Bad Company. Well, anyway, honestly, I think it's the par for the course. Sazerac needs to stop making all their products taste identical one to another. So you can buy this, that, the other thing. I bought this. I bought that. Oh, did you find that? And then you taste it, and it's like, well, you ever notice how this bourbon tastes a lot like the other bourbons? Oh, no, you're not supposed to say that. But I think that maybe, and this is definitely not with any sort of confidence, I think maybe this is a slight bit drier, which would make me think it's the Ron Pontalba without flavoring, although you're not required to put it on the label, so it may still have flavoring. Oh, I have to tell you this right now, live on the air. It has the flavoring. It's the Gran Legacy. Oh, I'm so irritated. Gran Legacy, you need to take a hike. You need to go away. Grand Legacy needs to go away. Get out of my face, because every time or too many times I try the Grand Legacy and it's supposed to be so different and it comes up the same. Damn you all to hell. So, well, do you get a benefit from buying the cheapest Sazerac product? Well, yeah, you get a benefit because it tastes like the higher end, but it's like way cheaper. So you say, I'm going to buy a Sazerac bourbon. Which Buffalo Trace Sazerac bourbon should I buy? My answer would be go down. No, down, 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 down. No, no, down, 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 down. You say, at the bottom shelf? Yeah, what does it say? It says Barton Distilling. Yeah, that sounds right. Barton, buy it. You say, but that's like $17.99 for a handle. I know, buy it. It'll taste the same as the $80. All right. Did you know that the last Cars album, Move Like This, which came out in 2011? Yeah, I heard about it, but I had no interest in it. I was finished with the Cars after 84. So I don't know where I read it, but is it true that theoretically the British could have suppressed the American Revolution but chose not to because the colony was not worth it monetarily compared to other colonies like the Caribbean ones? I don't believe that, because they wouldn't have fought a war that lasted 8 years. If they wouldn't have wanted to keep it, they would have just let it go and come up with some kind of, some kind of like play act. No, I think they wanted to keep the American 13 colonies, and I think they thought it was like the greatest fiasco ever. Like, if you ask British historians what was the greatest calamity in British history, they would all agree, even if they would not agree, that the greatest calamity was the loss of the 13 colonies, because this was the number one stunner. But there was some kind of like miscommunication, some kind of like missteps, and then they had these conspiratorial people in America that were looking for a pretext to break away. So there was a lot of problems. So, but after that happened, the British woke up. They like, okay, this can never happen again. So they came up with a program, really, literally a program. They said, from now on, any of our colonies that become like advanced, like a child growing up, he's like 18 years old, we'll start to move them towards self-governance, but they'll remain within the empire, or now we say the Commonwealth. So Canada was their second most precious colony. Then, of course, India, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, and so forth. So they said, no, there were some problems that were encountered. We could have done this better if we had been more foresighted or whatever, but they weren't, but they didn't know. So they said, now, from now on, we'll just make them into a realm or a Commonwealth Republic. So that's where they did that, and it's been in place ever since. So I guess it's been successful if you're an imperialist. Okay, so he says, Joe Cobb says, good point. Keep it because it was such a big chunk of land, even if it wasn't worth as much as others. No, I think it started over taxes. Well, my opinion is that that was the pretext. My opinion, it was never over taxes. That was irrelevant. They were looking for a pretext for a conflict. So they looked around. Let's see, dog food, no. Flower pots, no, not too many people interested in flower pots. Taxes, oh yes, taxes. No taxation without representation. So they found their pretext and they played on that, and then they could start their treason. I would say treason, yes, because they had all taken an oath of allegiance. So, yes. That was the pretext, correct. I also read that part of the deal with the America help in World War II was Britain promising to decouple from their colonies overseas, like you were stating. Well, yes and no. Grand majority of former colonies are still in the Commonwealth, correct, but not dominions, correct. Okay, but they are republics who still recognize King Charles as the head of the Commonwealth, of which they are members. So, good points. That was an easy thing to do because they were already that was already the plan in place. We're going to get rid of colonies and they'll become realms. And then after 1949, Commonwealth republics. So they took. So the British are always one step ahead of the Americans. The Americans are all at barbecue, watching hee haw, drinking I don't know, bourbon and playing horseshoes, whatever, lawn darts. So the British said, well, how about this, old boy? We'll get rid of all our colonies if you help us fight World War II. So the Americans said, okay, boy. So, but actually that wasn't in place. That had already been in place since like 1860s. So, but they're easy, the Americans are easy, they're, so, that was a really clever way, if you help us fight World War II, and all you got to do is have about 340,000 of your people killed, not a big deal, then we'll get rid of our colonies and turn them into Commonwealth realms and or Commonwealth republics, which was the plan all along, at least since 1949, to make them realms. Territories, but that's just an adjustment. That's not important. So the Americans said, yeah, boy, we'll show you British of what's going on. And so who cares about 200,000 or 350,000 American lives to keep that Anglo-Saxon empire on the throne around the world? So they did it, and it happened. Sounds fair, right? Haha. Let's see, last comments. The head of the Commonwealth, but not the head of state like Canada and Australia. Correct. So that's a very interesting formula that they came up with. It had a lot of negotiations. Actually, they were very intense negotiations from what I read. But King George VI said, well, he didn't like the idea of not being the king of India. He said, no. So they said, well, what about, no, they didn't know. They kept going back and forth. So he said, he said, what if I become the president of India? And the people in India said, what? The government said, what? Well, I could be the president of India. I wouldn't be the king anymore. I'll be the president. And their attitude was like, are you crazy? So, but they kept going on and on because India had these great trade deals with England. They didn't want to lose that. So that was England's like grip on them, like to twist a screw. So they came up with this formula. So the British said, well, what about this? This is King George VI idea. He said, what about this? What if, okay, I'll no longer be the king of India, but India will be a republic with their own president, but they will recognize me as the head of the Commonwealth of which India is a member. So the people in India thought about it, talking about the government leaders. So we'll have our own president, but yet we'll still recognize King George VI as the king, as the head of the Commonwealth of which we are a member. Okay. So they signed on to it, and that's still the case today. 2025, India has their own president, and they recognize, but yet they still recognize King Charles III as the head of the Commonwealth of which they are a member. Okay, let's look at the last comments. I got to get out of here. I think you are right. It was already in place. Do you know about any books or sources that the British write about this plan, or is it more of something that was just understood with time? Well, actually, instead of a book, you can look online at commonwealth.gov. What is it? Commonwealth.com.net. Well, look at the Commonwealth, and they have a very extensive history section, and they talk about that. They go into actually pretty explicit detail. So they talk about the whole formula, which is basically where I got my material, and how they came up with this like concoction. Yeah, I would look at that. Just look at the Commonwealth. Liquor enthusiast said, we played horseshoes at every family picnic with kegs of beer, usually Pepsi Blue Ribbon, laughing out loud. Okay. British people are known to be clever, I guess. Very clever. I think you're right. They influenced America into World War II heavily, but America also realized if they won, they would also increase their influence. Yeah, it was a dual purpose. Support their mother country, and FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, was very in tight with the British establishment, and increase American power. Yeah, so they backed out because of that threat. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Depends how you look at it, but yeah. So it's very convoluted. The whole history is very convoluted. But you got to watch when you look at historians. You got to watch who is their attachment. Like, who are they attached to? It's like, oh, Reginald Smith. He's a scholar at Princeton University. Oh, he's a member of the Council of Foreign Relations since 1992. Well, what do you know? How about that? So you look at that, and it kind of clears things up. So, yeah. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. I got to go. I got things to do. Y'all take care. So the winner is clearly the cheaper product. Well, here's what I have learned. This is very interesting. Adding natural flavors, does it change it or not change it? I would say confetti, it's up in the air. I don't really know. I don't think it changes much. I think Sazerac is very careful with adding flavoring, so I don't see where it makes much of a difference. Yeah, see ya. So y'all take care. Bye-bye.